All right.
Okay, I sit here. Right?
Yeah, I'm unmuted though. I want you to know that.
Well,
I'm unmuted.
okay.
Oh, this is
Good evening, everyone. Are you ready to start?
I'm ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a virtual community meeting to learn about the Centennial Greenway conceptual design. This meeting is being recorded and will be available on the project website tomorrow at greatriversgreenway.org/centennial. This meeting is being conducted in a webinar format, so as an audience member, your microphone is muted and you will not be visible to other participants. However, we encourage you to input any questions you have into the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. We would love to hear from you, and we want to ensure that all of your questions are answered. You can send us questions at any point during the presentation, and we will be sure to answer them at the end. If you have any comments or feedback on the design, you will have the opportunity to provide your input in a feedback form following tonight's presentation. And with that, we will go ahead and get started with the meeting.
Mayor Springer, you need to unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ruth Springer, and for those who don't know me, I am the mayor of the city of Olivette, and I'd like to welcome all of you to this presentation of the Centennial Greenway project. From the outset, the collaboration and the cooperation between the city of Olivette and the Great Rivers Greenway has helped to advance this project forward. As they say, teamwork will make the dream work. As always, our community has come through in a big way. Through great participation and feedback from all of you, an informed design has taken shape. This Centennial Greenway will further build upon Olivette's 2018 bike and walk plan and integrate with the park's master plan, making our city more walkable and bikeable. All of which will help connect our neighborhoods within Olivette and connect Olivette to the greater region. This new trail will be a safe and welcoming place for recreation, for transportation, and experiencing nature. Bottom line, all of this contributes to improving the quality of life for you, the residents. The City Council is very excited about this new trail and the impact it will have on our city. Thank you to Todd Antoine, Chief of Planning Projects, to Angela Gutierrez for Project Management, and Shaughnessy Daniels, Civic Engagement Manager, for your leadership and guidance as we move through this process. Thanks to Barb Sondag, Beverly Tucker Knight, and Bruce McGregor for representing the city throughout this process. Shout out to Councilmember Missy Waldman for helping with neighborhood meetings during the initial phase of this project. And many thanks to the design and engagement teams from WSP, Shockey, KES, and DTL. So let's take a look at what Great Rivers Greenway has put together for us.
What a great introduction. Thank you so much, Mayor Springer. It's a pleasure to have you here, and we will get started. Next slide, please. So this is the agenda that we have for this evening. We'll start with the project team introductions. After that, we'll give a project overview, then a community feedback, current design progress, next steps, and question and answer session. So next slide, please. The project leadership. So as Mayor Springer mentioned, this is a partnership between the City of Olivette and Great Rivers Greenway. On the screen, you can see our leaders here, our members of the project team. Mayor Springer, City Manager Barbara Sondag, Director of Parks and Recreation of the City of Olivette, Beverly Tucker Knight, Director of Public Works in Olivette, Bruce McGregor. And from Great Rivers Greenway, Todd Antoine, Chief of Planning and Projects, myself, Angelica Gutierrez. I'm the project manager. I started working in this project 8 months ago, and I love this great partnership that exists between the City of Olivette and Great Rivers Greenway. And Shaughnessy Daniels, she's leading our civic engagement efforts. So that's our team. Next slide, please. And from the consultant side, we have a great team put together. We have Will Crusoe and Britt Maron from the WSP team. For engagement and communications, we have Erin Daughtery and April Snake from Shockey Consulting, I'm sorry. Clem Kivindio, he's a partner with WSP, helping us with all the utility coordination. And from DTLS, we have Shelby Britton, Matt Snelling, and Brad, helping us with all the landscaping architecture of the project. Next slide, please. So the project overview. Let me give you an overall and maybe a recap of what we have shown in previous videos and presentations to the City of Olivette in the Coffee with the Mayor events and videos that we have online. As you can visit our website, project website, and see that. Next slide, please. So we show here our Greenway project stages, how a Greenway gets from a dream to reality. So we have our River Rig Master Plan that started in 2004. Then we have the Greenway Master Plan for each specific Greenway. This one, Centennial Greenway, that was 2006. Then we divide it into pieces, into segments, and then we have the segment planning that started in 2018. And now we are in the segment design and site control. That's where we are right now, and scheduled to be completed in this segment of the Greenway by next year in 2021. After that, we do the actual construction, so the segment construction. And last, we have the Greenway operations and maintenance, which is when the community enjoys the Greenway, and we have good partners to help us keep up the nice feature that we will be building for the community. Next slide, please. So we have, as I said, we are in the segment design and site control. We completed the preliminary design in the last year was completed. Right now we are in the intermediate design. That's to be done and completed by January of next year. And then we will be doing the final design to be done middle of 2021. Next slide, please. So in 2018, as I said, we completed the alignment study, and that alignment study produced a preferred alignment. So this alignment that you see on the screen is what we come up with after checking different alternatives, different routes. After studying that feasibility of this alignment, it was decided to divide the project in 2 phases. So phase 1 is, we call it 599A. It's our internal project number. So that phase is Road and Dillman Road. That's phase 1. And then phase 2 will be the remainder of the segment between Dillman Road and Olive Boulevard. And I'm sorry, phase 1 includes a little portion that you'll see in the next slides. We incorporate that Olive and 170 intersection there. So thank you. Yep. This one, so concentrating in phase 1. As I said, the design of this Greenway between Warson and Dillman Roads and the little section there on Olive and 170 intersection is to be complete by the summer of 2021. Within this phase 1, we have the Warson Park project, and that is a project led by the city at this point. They have their designer, and they are going to team up with GRG to build the Greenway within Warson Park at the same time with the same contractor. So that's part of that phase one. And then the Olivette 170 coordination with MODOT, with the Department of Transportation. We need to talk to them about, all the permit to construct the Greenway through that area. It already exists, but we want to enhance the features, especially safety at the crossings there, because we heard that what's you'll see later on when Shaughnessy give us an update on the community feedback. That's one of the things that we need to make safety of most importance, as always. And then I wanted to bring this up really quick because I know I've heard from some residents concerns about the Olive connection and the crossing at Hilltop. So outside of this project, the KIT development project is including the construction of the Greenway connection along the south side of Olive Boulevard, and they are increasing the size and the timing on the crossing at Hilltop. There are traffic signal modifications and geometric design changes to that intersection with new crossing timing, and that will be completed as part of that project. The city is handling that directly with the developer, so that's kind of a little bit outside of our project scope right now, but I just wanted to mention it because I know it's been of interest from some of the residents out there for safety as well on the crossing. Next slide, please. So this one is the reminder of the section of phase one that I already mentioned in the project in Waterson Park. So this other segment is again, in partnership with the City of Olivette and GRG, we together submitted a request for a grant application from the Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP grant, to cover for part of the cost of the construction of the Greenway between Waterson Park and Dillman Road. We requested $1 million that will cover partially the construction cost of the Greenway, and we will receive a notification from East West Gateway on that award early 2021. So hopefully we get that grant, and that can help us with some of the costs to build a nice Greenway here. And at the dead end here on the Dillman Road, we are coordinating with San Luis County. They have a project going on right now, also federally funded for Dillman Road, and they are incorporating the Dillman crossing of the Greenway as part of their project. So it will, we are communicating, and we're making sure that both projects are coordinated. Next slide, please. So part of that small segment that was in the previous slide, we have Napoleon Drive Street. It's a little cul-de-sac street that connects to that Indian Meadows Park. This is a cross section that where you can see on the left-hand side, there is a retaining wall that is to be relocated. So there is one retaining wall right now. It'll be moved a little bit to make room for the Greenway. Traffic, street, parking, all remains the same. So we don't want to cause any disruptions to the residents there, and they will still have their sidewalk that they have in front of their home. So that's kind of how the Greenway will run on this area. Next slide, please. So this is a typical cross section at the back of the properties in the Indian Meadows Park subdivision. In June of 2020, representatives from the city, GRG, and the subdivision and city council visited with the property owners here on Huron Drive. These residents had good questions. We explained what the project would do, which is pretty much, as you can see in the center of the slide, there is that's the Greenway that runs parallel to the River the Pear and to the fence line of the back of those properties. So we were talking to the residents about how the construction would go, if they would like to see a fence, a privacy fence, or landscape buffers, or different types of features dividing and connecting. So some residents really wanted to have access to the Greenway, and they wanted a gate to have an direct access to the Greenway. So that was discussed with the residents at that point. We wanted to make sure that they well, number one, we're in agreement with the Greenway here, and number two, that we were listening to what they needed to have as part of this project. So we have retaining walls, fences, landscape buffers, and a lot of work to be done in this area. So it's a challenge, but it's not impossible. So we're planning for it. And additionally, on this area, MSD was planning to have a project to complete a sanitary relief. They have agreed to move to the other side of the River de Pear. Later on, Bruce is going to update us on that project, but I just wanted to mention that it was a great benefit to have work with MSD and help us not interfere or conflict with their project area as well. So we were able to have each project have their own project area and don't have conflicts. So that was a great accomplishment by the team. Okay, next slide, please. So during the intermediate design, we are continuing to work through the details of the design and adding features to make a great Greenway experience in this community. The work is being driven by feedback we have received from you, the community. And with that, I will welcome Shaughnessy Daniels, our Civic Engagement Manager, to give us an update on what we heard from the community on the online survey. Shaughnessy.
Thank you, Angelica. I appreciate it. Okay, I just wanted to first, before we go into the actual results of the surveys, I wanted to talk a little bit about engagement. Engagement is a core principle for Great Rivers Greenway. It's embedded in all of our work, and it's really important to us in terms of our planning and design work for our Greenway projects. We engage early, we engage often, and we engage throughout a project to ensure that the voice of the community is heard and really drives the design for the Greenway project. So this project in Olivette is no different. We began engagement on the front end of this project. We started engagement in 2018 with the alignment study, where we worked with the community to determine where the Greenway would go. The study was vetted by the community. It was largely driven by a community advisory committee. It was presented to the city council in the spring of 2019. So that's how we got to the actual alignment. Now in 2020 and 2021, the engagement is focused on design. So it's your input and your ideas that are informing the plans that determine the look and feel for this Greenway. Engagement for this phase launched in June 2020. We stutter-stepped a little bit because we were in the middle of a pandemic, but we figured out how to get out and have conversations with the community safely. So we started with stakeholder meetings, again, as Angelica talked about, with the neighbors whose homes are closest to the Greenway alignment. And once those conversations were complete, we provided an update at the July Coffee with the Mayor event. So thank you for inviting us to participate in that. We shared some information there. And then we started to begin broader input and information gathering. So we launched an online survey, which many of you responded to, and we thank you for that. So in the next few slides, I'm going to show you the result of that survey. And then later you'll see how that feedback is informing the work of the design team. Next slide. So it's really important to note that the survey was open for 9 weeks. We kept it open a little longer because of COVID. We wanted to make sure that people had an opportunity to participate and to respond. So we received 137 responses from people in 31 unique zip codes. So a lot of people are really interested in this connection through Olivette. Nearly 40% of the responses did come from people that live in the 63132 zip code. So there were many respondents that actually indicated that they live in Olivette, but many also work in Olivette when we're responding from those other zip codes. We use social media, email, and mail to inform the community that the survey was out in the universe and that we were seeking feedback. So again, for those who responded, we really appreciate your information. And with no further ado, here's what we heard. So a large majority of the respondents are familiar with Greenways and have visited other Greenways within our Greenway network. As many of you know, Great Rivers Greenway serves 3 counties, St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and St. Charles County. And so many people are familiar with the Greenway in one of those counties. The majority of the respondents favor cycling and walking in terms of Greenway use. However, there were many comments about using the Greenway to connect with nature. So we want to ensure that, that the Greenway ensures a natural aesthetic and that's present in the landscape design as a part of the experience. There were many comments about that. And then a lot of responses did not identify commuting as a priority for this Greenway. It turns out that many respondents indicated that they are currently retired and working from home because of COVID or taking online classes. So they really otherwise have no commute. Or they also indicated that their place of employment might be too far. So, they said that this greenway is not really within a comfortable commuting distance, but that they would use it for recreation and for just enjoyment and pleasure. It was also noted that another reason for not commuting using this greenway is because the greenway segment doesn't connect directly to public transit. Next slide. So on this slide, we asked questions about how greenways would help people feel safe, and safety was prominent among the survey responses. Now, while most respondents indicated that they would feel safe using the greenway overall, there were several comments about specific safety concerns. So it's important to note here that safety means different things to different people. Just under 10% reference personal safety or violent and petty crime, or 8% reference property crime. So there were low incidences of references to safety in terms of something happening on the greenway. The large majority of the responses were related to safety as it relates to the traffic and road crossings, which Angelica mentioned before, and which we'll talk about a little bit more later on in the presentation. In fact, 51% of the responses to the questions about safety were directly indicated that road crossings were a critical issue that must be addressed through the design plan for this greenway. So we heard you, and we're taking that to note, and we will talk about that as we continue this conversation. Next slide. So other elements offered as key features that might enhance the greenway experience. As noted earlier, connecting with nature was mentioned often in the comment sections. Respondents are supportive of natural features and connections to nature, and they talked about that a lot. So that was really nice to hear. Connections to other parks within Olivette, within the Olivette community, were also noticed as important connections to make when we're planning for this greenway. Next slide. And then there were some really great ideas about amenities that will make the greenways most enjoyable. So most prevalent was to ensure that there are trash receptacles along the greenway. That was one of the major things. But that also emphasizes the desire that the greenway is well kept and well maintained. It was really important that the greenway be kept, mowed and cut and clean. Also, many respondents indicated that native plantings would enhance the greenway experience. So again, another nod to nature there. And then we heard a lot about having things like directional signage and informational signage. So talking about where the greenway connects to and having information about places the greenway connects to. Lots of comments about drinking fountains and shade. And this includes shade, like shade structures or also trees. So all of this data that we gathered through that community survey that we did, that online survey, this has all been shared with the design team. And as design plans are presented, you'll start to see how all of these comments and all of this information is incorporated into the greenway design. I do want to share that the full survey results, along with a recording of this presentation and other exhibits and with this project, they'll be posted on our website. I will put the link to the website in the chat, but it's www.greatriversgreenway.org/centennial. And I will put that in the chat for you. And if you have specific questions about the survey results, you can add them to the Q&A function, and we'll be answering questions at the end of the presentation. And again, if you're interested in learning more about this project, or if you have an organization that you represent or a group of neighbors that you represent and you want a more personal presentation, we're happy to do that. Just let me know, and we'll have our contact information at the end of the presentation as well. And so with that, I will pass the mic on to Will Crusoe, and he'll share more about the project. Will?
Thank you, Shaughnessy. Let's see. We are now going to transition into what it is we're working on, things we're developing, talking about how, as Shaughnessy mentioned, some of the feedback that we've heard. We had a preliminary design. We're updating, adding detail, taking into account the different aspects. A little bit more detail as we navigate a trail through the community. Generally, if you remember back to the overview, a majority of this phase is running through Warson Park and Indian Meadows Park. So working to develop alignments that blend into the park through those areas and interface with the park and the residents in a responsible manner. And then the portion along Olive at I-170 interchange as well. So let's talk a little bit more detail. If you could go to the next slide. So as was mentioned, we're in the intermediate, I'll call it 70% design phase. So started with the conceptual study. Where should the alignment go? Transitioned into a preliminary design called a 30%. How detailing out where it could go. Now we're just adding more detail. How's the drainage? Reviewing the proposed design against the existing drainage patterns, the slopes of the ground, the roadways that we're interfacing with, Dealman Road, Olive Boulevard. Those are very important. The park features, et cetera, to really develop an idea of what the profile should look like. Responsibly take care of drainage, connectivity, keeping the grades of the trail at a walkable, comfortable slopes and whatnot. And then the other piece that we're doing, it was mentioned, work along River to Pear behind the Huron properties. That's a kind of a delicate area. Narrow footprint right next to a creek. Coordinating with the Corps of Engineers on that one. Dealman Road, coordinating with St. Louis County Highway Department, who operates and maintains Dealman Road. I-170, coordinating with MoDOT. MSD project was mentioned, so that there's various other stakeholders that this trail will interface with, and that we're taking this time to really add detail to the design and coordinate with those other agencies as the project interfaces with them. And then, all along, goes without saying, coordinating with the city of Olivette and Beverly as we're navigating a trail through the parks. So next slide. Kind of show a little bit more about what the trail might look like. So this is what we would call a typical section to represent how the trail would fit relative to a general area. So in this area, I would picture something along the lines of the existing trail in Indian Meadows Park. If you think of that, kind of between the Pavilion and Napoleon Boulevard, or the existing trail in Morrison Park along the fields. So really just those are generally flat cross slope areas, flat terrain. So really just responsibly, drainage channel on the left side. There will be plantings and whatnot, or existing trees that we're constructing along. But generally just making sure that the trail blends in with the existing terrain, slopes into a ditch where we can drain the water responsibly, prevent ponding, etc. The trail itself is intended to be 12 foot wide as a typical dimension of asphalt surface. And then on either side of that would be a 1 foot wide concrete curb. So then what you've seen in other portions of the GRG's network that have been built to a previous standard. This is maybe kind of an upgrade of the current standard. And then so overall width of the paved surface will be 14 foot, and then a kind of a 2 foot wide shoulder area, flat area adjacent to that, generally speaking. So go ahead to the next slide after this. So this is an area where it's the existing slopes next to the trail, along the trail, are not exactly flat. So a wall would be required on one and or both sides. Similar to before, the trail itself, there's really not a whole lot of change there. The change more so is rather than gentle slopes right back down to grade, we're needing to construct walls to minimize the footprint, perhaps preserve some trees on either side, things of that nature. Okay, let's go ahead and next slide. So safety was all mentioned before, definitely an important topic. We have coordinated and are continuing to coordinate with St. Louis County, who operates and maintains Dealman Road. As was mentioned, the St. Louis County does have a Dealman Road project that they intend to construct next year as well, where they're going to resurface the pavement along Dealman Road and upgrade the sidewalks and the curb ramps at the intersections. This is the intersection of Napoleon and Dealman Road. They do intend, and we've coordinated with them with this crossing, to upgrade the curb ramp at this location to accommodate both a north-south movement of the existing sidewalk, as well as a new east-west movement of the Centennial Greenway, where it would cross Dealman Road just on the south side of Napoleon Boulevard. Additionally, just off the top of the page is the bridge over River de Pear. There's a sidewalk currently on both sides of that bridge. St. Louis County, through their project, will be extending that sidewalk down on the east side of Dealman Road to connect to the trail at the east side of Dealman Road, at the east side of the crosswalk. So improving connectivity, working with them to develop a high visibility, as safe as possible, looking at lighting. There's an existing light just on the north side of the intersection, looking at perhaps adding a light on the south side, installing signage to alert drivers of a crosswalk, really just working to highlight the pedestrian and cyclist movements in this area and make drivers aware that they're not the only ones utilizing this space. So let's go to the next slide. This is kind of a layout of existing blended into what the kind of the proposed improvements that we're coordinating with MoDOT on for the improvements along Olive Boulevard. Olive is a MoDOT route, as is I-170. So right now there are paths along and crosswalks across the ramps in this interchange. They are also signalized. Some of those signals are working. Some of those are not working. So those will be updated and upgraded with this project. The other thing we're looking at doing is shortening the distance to cross across these ramps. So if you zoom into some of the detail with your eyes, just highlight your attention to some of these ramps where the existing shoulder next to the lanes, we're intending to extend a curb into that existing shoulder to shorten and have more direct shortened access across the traffic movement. Again, highlight the pedestrian realm to improve safety and communicate to drivers that are using this route that they're, again, like Dealman, more than just vehicles using this area, and make it a more comfortable, safer interchange to walk through. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is kind of a little bit more detail to what was presented previously. If you remember the previous slides, this is zoomed in a little bit more on the right side, looking at existing river to pair, the flows in the river, the bank, how steep it is, flat it is, really just looking to navigate the trail, construct the trail between the rear yards of the properties along Huron and River de Pear in a responsible manner that respects both environments as well as the planted community that's back there as well. So looking to restabilize some of the bank along this trail and establish bank stabilizing vegetation, short and tall, in this area. This ultimately would be shaded, but some of the existing trees would need to be removed as part of this construction, but they would all be replanted. And then one more slide before I hand it off to Matt. This is kind of a screenshot of hydraulic model of River de Pere here. And this is, let's say, in the opposite direction of the previous slide, to where the black rectangle on the left side represents the industrial buildings on the north side of River de Pere. And then River de Pere, and then the slope on the right side would represent the rear yards of the properties that front Huron Road. So again, looking at the flows, the velocities, the characteristics of the flow in River de Pere, so that we can stabilize and revegetate the banks in a responsible manner. And at that, I will turn it over to Matt to talk about some additional aspects of the project.
Thanks, Will, and hello, everybody. I'm Matt Snelling, and I'm a landscape architect with DTLS. The stabilization and restoration of the River de Pere is a great segue into talking about the overall landscape approach to the Greenway. The survey feedback we received at the preliminary design stage was very clear that shade and trees are critical components to a pleasant Greenway experience. The following slides illustrate the ways in which the design is responding to that feedback. Next slide, please. On this diagram, you can see that new tree plantings are integral to the design of the Greenway. The proposed trees to be planted here are shown outlined in white on the drawings. I should mention at this point that we'll be paging through several of these diagrams in fairly rapid succession, but a recording of this presentation will be posted on the Centennial Greenway website that Shaughnessy mentioned and posted a link to. So you'll be able to pause the video and examine these drawings at your own pace. So apologies in advance for how fast we'll be kind of cruising through these. Next slide, please. New tree plantings are placed with the intent of complementing the existing tree canopy. In some cases, we're filling in gaps or providing screening for neighbors, or occasionally replacing existing trees being displaced by the Greenway's construction, as Will was pointing out. Next slide, please. Those existing trees are also highlighted on these pages. They've been color-coded according to their condition and desirability. They've been, the landscape architectural team has assessed these trees, and the City of Olivette has also commissioned an arborist study in these two parts. So we've got some good data on these trees. Most of the trees in these areas are in good shape and should be protected where possible. Those are the ones shown in green without the white outline. Trees in poor condition can present a hazard to users, and so therefore should be removed as part of the project, and those trees are shown in red. Some trees are somewhere in between. They may require a little extra protection, extra watering, or other treatment in order to be preserved, and those are shown in yellow. Next slide, please. So here's a closer look at an example of how existing trees are guiding the placement of the trail. On the right side of the page, there's a grouping of trees in poorer condition shown in red, which will be removed rather, to make way for the trail. But moving to the left, you can see that we are shifting the trail alignment by a few feet in hopes of avoiding the root zones of some beautiful trees on the west end of Warson Park. In some cases, retaining walls or other structures may be required in order to preserve these valuable trees. Next slide, please. These plans are informed by lots of in-person field visits, and so that going out, photographing, and seeing this this area in context helps us imagine and visualize what the Greenway will look like when it's installed. And so the sort of aqua line there sort of demonstrates how we are weaving in and out of these existing trees. Next slide, please. Trees are one aspect of the landscape, but we also heard from the survey responses that access to nature in general is a big part of the Greenway experience. The diagrams in the following pages focus on landscape communities, particularly the kinds of plant communities which are representative of this region of Missouri. Next slide, please. So we're leaning heavily on native plants. But we're selecting individual species based on their appropriateness within the parks and adjacent to the Greenway. So that means that we're thinking about things like long-term care and plant height relative to visibility, which affects one's perception of safety in the space. Next slide, please. Now, these drawings are simplified diagrams, but they show how various plant communities have been selected according to local site conditions. Areas with existing trees may be underplanted with savanna species, while more open, sunny areas receive meadow or short prairie grasses and wildflowers. Next slide, please. Along the River des Peres, we'll be looking to plant species with robust root systems adapted to hold the stream bank in place and prevent erosion, as Will was speaking about previously. Next slide, please. There's maybe a delay on, oh, here we go. And in low-lying areas prone to drainage issues, we'll be designing rain gardens to help capture and infiltrate stormwater runoff. Next slide, please. In addition to the natural elements of the Greenway, survey feedback also pointed out the importance of clear markings and signage along the Greenway. Great Rivers Greenway is implementing new signage standards across its Greenway network, and the suite of signs includes identity signage, wayfinding, interpretive, and even emergency locator information. During this phase, we'll be locating these signs along the Greenway according to GRG's guidance. Next slide, please. These signs may help direct users to other amenities in the Greenway. The maps on these following pages show how the proposed locations of many of the features are called out by the, show the proposed locations of many of the features called out by the survey feedback. Drinking fountains, restrooms, benches, and so on are very popular requests. Next slide, please. Because this segment of the Greenway is primarily located within two of Olivette's parks, these features complement and support the mission of the parks, and vice versa. The icons on these pages are color-coded to depict the elements to be constructed as part of the Greenway, as well as those which are a part of the parks. Next slide, please. Indian Meadows Park is a good example of how the park and the Greenway amenities will complement one another. Bike racks and a drinking fountain are planned to support the existing restrooms and pavilion, while additional seating and litter receptacles will be useful for Greenway users visiting the playground. Next slide, please. As we're designing and locating these proposed features, we are of course considering how they will fit within the parks as they exist today, but also with an eye to the future and the improvements envisioned by the Olivette Parks Master Plan. And with more on that, here's Beverly Tucker-Knight.
Thank you, Matt. And hello, everyone. Beverly Tucker-Knight, Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Olivette. And the city is very excited about the Greenway. One, because we know it's something that our residents truly desire, and we had wonderful feedback from residents coming through the planning part of it. But also the Great Rivers Greenway Centennial Pathway dovetails perfectly with our Parks Master Plan. The city's Parks Master Plan was adopted in 2018, and we are now in the process of implementing following the passage of Prop C. And we are very excited because the timing of this coincides with us doing the redevelopment of all of our parks and with building our new community center. So it's allowing us to ensure as the planning of the Greenway comes through our parks that it's also seamlessly connecting in with the renovations that we're doing at the same time. And the mission and the concepts in our park master plan are closely mirrored by the same core tenets of Great Rivers Greenway. So that really is a win-win for us. And one of the goals of the park master plan was to reopen and reconnect the lost connection between Warson Park and Indian Meadows Park. And the Greenway is basically doing that for us. So it's wonderful because it helps us achieve some of the goals of our master plan without us necessarily having to spend money on it too. To be quite honest about that, it's really nice that we're able to work together and save money in the process. And as far as construction goes, we'll also be coordinating that very closely with the two teams working together, because the last thing we want to do is have portions of the Greenway constructed and then be torn out by something the city's doing in the park. So we are being very careful to coordinate construction schedules. We're working together with our project managers to ensure that everyone is able to achieve the goals of the project without having to impact the others time-wise or construction-wise. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us, and we're very excited. And I just want to point out too, this picture that you see here, this is actually a beautiful picture of Indian Meadows Park. We're so lucky in Olivette because our parks are so beautiful, and this Greenway will allow more residents to know about our parks and to experience them. So we're very excited about it, and thank you very much. And I will turn it on to the next person.
Thanks, Beverly. Bruce McGregory here, Olivette Public Works Director. Many of you probably are aware of many Metropolitan Sewer District sanitary relief projects. They've been naming them Project Clear. There's currently one beginning over at I-170 just south of Olive, going to be working towards Stacy Park along an existing creek there. And about middle of the community engagement process to determine the alignment, we were approached by MSD stating that they were going to do another project on the north side of Olivette, beginning in North Price in the industrial park, working over to Overlands, as shown going through Indian Meadows map. As you can imagine, this was sort of a surprise to us, and we said, well, this is great, but we will have a brand new trail. The MSD project would align about 18 months behind the Centennial Greenway construction, and would be right on top of the trail, would cause a lot of interference. We worked with their design team for quite a while, and were able to come up with an alternate alignment. We can go to the next slide. And now the majority of the route is going down Dealman Rock Island, with only a couple segments that are going to intersect the trail area. We are working with them again so that they can advance construct those segments that intersect with the Greenway, so that we'll have minimal interference with the existing trail or the new trail, and additionally with our new park improvements. And happy to answer any questions via email if anybody has them.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so this is almost last item on the agenda, next steps. So this is what our schedule looks like for the upcoming years. As I mentioned before, the intermediate design, which we are right now, will be completed in the spring of 2021. Final design, summer of 2021. This process takes time, right? As you can see, we have a solid team of professionals working to make sure that we produce a very high quality Greenway for the city of Olivette. So the final design in summer of 2021 will bring, that result, and that will be, there will be an opportunity to do the bidding in the fall of 2021. And with the construction being ready for, immediately after, and be done between the spring of 2022. And construction timeframes vary. It's depending on how complicated things might be with the slope stabilization and the construction of retaining walls and things like that, and the weather. So we typically give a 12-month period, but it can be shorter than that. So our completion for the phase 1 of the Centennial Greenway would be early 2023. So that is the schedule. I believe that is all we had content-wise. If we can go to the next slide, maybe Erin or April, you wanna walk us through the Q&A?
Sure. So we have some great questions from attendees so far. We'll start with a couple similar questions related to material and accessibility. Are all greenways paved with asphalt? Will this greenway be fully paved? And will there be on-ramps with shallow grades that are friendly and accessible to those using wheelchairs?
Okay, I can answer that one. And yes, the answer is yes. All the grades will be in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Everything under 5%, which is the maximum slope that we can build a greenway. We are in a relatively flat topography here, so it's not challenging. I think the only area that we may be looking at getting some switchbacks or ramps or extensions of sidewalk to obtain that minimum grade would be within Warson Park, where we want to connect north and south in that park segment. But other than that, there will be connections. There will be, ramps on and off to get on the greenway at smart locations, at accessible locations. Will or Matt, do you want to add anything, or did I get it all?
I'll weigh in just a bit. You did a great job. The grades are very complementary across most of this area, but as you picture Warson Park, the north portion of the park is quite a bit lower than the south portion of the park, which is quite a bit higher, and really coming up with a way to connect those two. The grades do end up getting a little bit steeper, closer to the 5% in that area, but generally speaking, the grades are going to be very, I'll say flat.
Thank you.
All right, next question. Can you talk a little bit more specifically about how safety is being addressed at the crossing at Olive Boulevard, and more specifically, how the development of the Olive Crossing Center will impact the safety of Greenway users?
Sure, I can start, and maybe I will invite Mrs. Sondag, to the conversation, or unless you want to take it.
Well, I think I can. I'll start, Angelica. Thank you so much, and then I'll let you you wrap it up.
Sure.
The crossing, Olive Boulevard is actually a state road, so we actually, no matter what happens along Olive, we always have to talk with MoDOT, with the Missouri Department of Transportation, and in this case, the developer had already been working with MoDOT on a plan. That development was requiring an added lane. It was already going to require some changes at the intersection, and so what happened is, we started the city, Great Rivers Greenway, started working with the developer and their engineer, traffic engineer CBB, on what it would look like to make that then from an intersection to the connection for the Greenway. We did a lot of work. I think we had a really great breakthrough then when we met in person. We had representatives from the city, from GRG, from MoDOT, and from the developer, and they worked together on a plan on how that could be engineered in a safe way. And that plan, the developer changed his engineering design, and that has been resubmitted to MoDOT, and it's been approved. So the safety concerns for pedestrians, the safety concerns for bicyclists, and for vehicles are all reviewed, and the final approver of that is really MoDOT, and we have received that approval. And it's similar to the coordination that GRG and the city has done with the county at Dealman, because where the trail crosses Dealman is actually county road, and we had that same collaborative ability there. So I think that so I think the safety, apologize. I think the safety has been determined. I think it's been determined to be great. I would anticipate there still may be some tweaks as we move forward. But all of those, whether it be at Dealman or whether it be at Olive, will be approved by that, by either MoDOT or by the county Public Works or County Highway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is great. I think you covered everything that I was going to suggest as an answer to that question, Erin.
Okay, next question. Someone mentioned that there's a small footbridge connecting the cul-de-sac of the nearby industrial area to the current trail in Warson Park. Was there any consideration given to making a connection here to the Greenway?
I will. Can we work on an answer for that one? I don't believe I am familiar with that area.
Yeah, so there is an existing wooden footbridge that does connect. There are some federal and other requirements with regards to materials, grades, cross slopes, and other issues. A connection is certainly possible. That being said, reconstructing that bridge would likely be required in order to provide an accessible route that would meet the requirements that are governed by the Americans with Disabilities Act and federal oversight of everything that GRG and municipalities would need to construct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next question. Can you explain in more detail how the project is being funded? What is the total cost and how much is the city of Olivette contributing?
Okay, so as we explained, we are still within the design phase, intermediate design. The costs estimates are conceptual at this point. We have conceptual cost estimate of, I'm gonna throw this number, and please know that this is under a base of conceptual design. 4.6 million, I believe, is the total cost that we have estimated, Will. And that's why we are trying to leverage as much as we can from other sources, including that Transportation Alternatives Program from the federal government to get 1 million out of that total. The city of Olivette is not contributing in the Greenway construction. However, they are working on the Warson Park development, the community center, and that project is happening on the Olivette side. But for the Greenway, Great Rivers Greenway is covering all the construction, design and construction costs. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, next question is, what is the status of phase 2 and will it be constructed at the same time or a later time?
So phase 2 is delayed because of right-of-way constraints. So as we show you in the first alignment study preferred route, it goes through the Union Pacific Railroad, which is a long and linear parcel that we want to acquire as part of this project. And because that used to be a main line, it has to go through an abandonment process from the railroad, and it has to go to the Surface Transportation Board, which is in Washington, D.C., and we need to go through several step process, which takes at least 12 months. And so to make this long answer short, it's 1 year behind phase one. So phase two, the best case scenario would be constructed 1 year after we complete the, after we complete the phase one. There might be further delays if we get complications in that process of abandonment of the railroad and acquiring the parcel and then obtaining all the rights for all the other adjacent properties. So there is an adjacent property on the north and easement that we need to obtain from CVS. That is also under negotiation. So we are doing all that work now. So once we're ready with UP, we can get things going and moving, as soon as possible. So yeah.
Okay, next question is specific to native plantings. Do we have an estimated percentage of planted trees that will be native Missouri trees and a percentage of planted flowers or shrubs that will be native to Missouri?
Matt, all yours.
Well, I would hesitate to say 100%, but the vast majority would be in excess of 90%, certainly. Just about everything that we will be proposing to be planted here would be native to Missouri. We'll have some areas adjacent to the trail, which would be lawn or turf, and that's in keeping with the context of the parks. But this is I think Beverly mentioned, there's some shared vision, shared mission between GRG and the City of Olivette, a strong desire to use Missouri natives and to introduce people of all ages to landscapes that are endemic of this area, that belong here. They were designed to grow here. So that composes our planting palette, and that's what we'll be leaning upon very heavily. Great question. Thank you.
All right, next is related to traffic crossings. Will there be any push to cross traffic lights? And was it mentioned that the crossing lights at Olive will be reconfigured to allow more crossing time for pedestrians?
Okay, so the design of that, I believe I haven't seen the final design, but my understanding is that yes, there will be pedestrian activation to those signals, extended time, and a bit wider than it exists right now. So, prone to address pedestrian and bicycle crossing there in the volumes that we expect them to be. So the short answer is yes. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
The second part was related to the crossing at Olive and some clarification on if it was mentioned that it would be reconfigured to allow more crossing time for pedestrians.
Yes, yes, the answer
And
is
they
yes.
also asked about, I assume, like a Nighthawk signal, maybe at Dealman. Could have been what they were asking about. In St. Louis County does not permit those on their roadways.
Okay. Another question, is there any parking along the trail or just at Olive and at Warson Park?
Parking. So the parking, yes, parking areas in Warson Park. In the new development, they are including a nice parking area there. In between parking for the trail, it would be only at those two locations. Do we have anything else regarding parking?
That is correct. Generally speaking, within the phase one, that is correct. There are, I believe, are opportunities within the phase two to add additional parking in that one, but not.
I think we see the development of the new community center in Warson Park as an opportunity again for shared mission between GRG and City of Olivette to serve as almost a trailhead for this facility, and also access to the new community center.
Thank you.
It looks like there's another question related to the intersection at Olive. Will there be restrictions on a right turn to southbound?
Will, do you want to take that one?
That and Barbara Sondag alluded to this earlier, not operated. There are a number of constraints and restrictions. I guess the short answer is that one specifically is to be determined, but not likely.
And then it looks like there's a couple of questions related to the speed of the response of pushing the button at Olive. Someone asked if crossings will prioritize pedestrians or bicyclists if they push the crossing button.
I am not an expert on this, but I understand the question. I see that they want a fast response once you push that button. Let's get a green to go, right? So Will, I don't know how much you know about that option to have a fast response on a pedestrian indicator there. But I can tell you, we will make every attempt to make this as safe as possible, and to make sure that there is, number one, enough time for a pedestrian to cross, and number two, sufficient access to not only pedestrians and bicycles, but wheelchairs to cross there. Will, do you have anything additional?
Yeah, I would add the increased duration of the crosswalk, the on-demand push button to get a pedestrian crosswalk signal. Those are features that I believe will be incorporated into the crossing of Olivette Hilltop, as well as the crossings of the ramps at the I-170 interchange. The balance of users along the corridor, there are a number of vehicles that travel east and west on Allen Boulevard, and not that they have preemptive priority, but there are a number of vehicles that utilize that route. So you can't just stop them every time a pedestrian comes through. So that would be added to the cycle, and the crosswalk time would be provided, but not instantaneously.
Right. And if I might add, I think sometimes one of the things that both the county and the state look at is kind of the usage and the reality at this point, how many pedestrians are crossing at a time. And the reality is we don't really have much data on that, because that data will be built as the Greenway is built and then utilized. And so I anticipate there'll be adjustments kind of along the way as we go.
Thank you. Yes.
And then another question just came in. Who is responsible for maintenance and lawn care along the trails?
Well, yes, we have right now a conversation happening with the city of Olivette, and as we do region-wide, Great Rivers Greenway gives the gift of the construction of the Greenway, and then we pass the maintenance responsibility of the Greenway and adjacent lawns and any plantings or trees or everything else to the jurisdiction that we're building in. So in this case, the city of Olivette. There will be an operations and maintenance agreement between GRG and the city, where we specify everything on pretty much, to answer your question, it'll be the city maintaining. It'll be a future facility for the city. The only thing that GRG keeps maintenance of, because it's a regional effort, is our wayfinding signage and environmental graphics. Anything that is painted or signs with interpretive signs or directional signs, we help with that in case they get damaged or graffitied or something like that. We help with that.
And I would add, GRG has been doing this now long enough that they give the city a good estimate of what upkeep might cost, what might be, the maintenance from an annual or, biannual or every how many years. And so I think that, the city has the opportunities, had the opportunity to incorporate those costs into our future budgeting process. I mean, again, it's just another huge benefit that the city's receiving working with GRG and the expertise that they bring with them and the knowledge that they bring with them. One of the thing that Angelica kind of glossed over a little bit was with her discussions with the railroad. This is the farthest any discussions have gotten with Union Pacific, and it's really due to the diligence of the workers, and Angelica being the leader of GRG. And that, we really are they've positioned us such that, we now we understand what the process is. They're willing to start that process with us. And so it's really a matter of time now. And in the past, it's not been a matter of time. It's been a matter of, can we even get to someone to discuss this possibility? So kudos to GRG on this.
Thanks, Barb. All right, Erin, are there any other questions?
A couple more just came in. Someone mentioned the drawings showed some connections from the trail along Dealman to connect to the city center. Is this a potential connection, or will it be formally done as part of this design?
Good question. Can I have Bruce answer that
Sure.
question?
So the connection between the intersection of Napoleon and Dealman and the Olivette City Center will be a city project. And we currently have a design for the parcel between the city center and Dealman Industrial Court across from Indian Meadows. We're going to be putting that out to bid this spring in construction. And then we'll be planning the next project on the parcel to the north the following year and both these projects are funded using community development block grant funds and some city staff efforts.
Thank you.
Okay. Another question, the pathway will provide how many additional miles through Olivette?
So this phase 1 is close to 2 miles. That'll be the addition on this one. I believe close to 3 if we include phase 2. I don't have with me right now the total mileage, but it'll be in the realm. Matt or Will, do you remember that exact number?
The total length is about 2.5 miles.
Thank you.
2.5 miles.
Yeah.
Okay, and one more question came in. Can residents be helpful in writing to Union Pacific to encourage this process for them to grant the right of way?
I love that. Thanks for offering. I really didn't see any indication, and Will, maybe you know a little bit more, but this process is so strict between UP, STB, and the requester, which in this case is the city and GRG together. I wish I can tell you, yes, go for it, write letters, but I don't know if those would help. Right, Will? Is that your understanding?
Right. That's generally the case. Assuming Union Pacific is on board with vacating the right-of-way, the Surface Transportation Board has set up that other railroads have the opportunity, right of first refusal, to step in and do that as well. So that there are a number of different layers, and public sentiment is not necessarily part of the process, unfortunately. That all being said, this is the end of a spur. So it is highly unlikely that any other rail entity would claim any rights to this because they would be disconnected from everything else.
But thank you so much for offering that. That's amazing. All right, Erin, anything else?
That's it for our questions.
Woo. Those were great questions. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Erin. Thank you for a lot of questions. I really like this. You can tell the community is engaged and they are informed and they are looking at what we are doing and a combination of many projects, many entities, agencies working towards the same goal. Thank you so much. Anything else that we need to add, Shaughnessy, towards the end here?
Well, I will just mention, I put a lot of stuff in the chat, but be sure to visit our website, www.greatriversgreenway.org/centennial. The presentation will be available tomorrow morning. I got to gather the recording and, you know, with the internet being slow, it takes a minute. So I'll post it tomorrow morning. But if you want to go on tonight, you can go on and follow the link that says, "Are we on the right path?" Share your feedback online. You can tell us how we did tonight and also give us some more feedback about the plan. Or if you want to ask more questions, definitely submit those questions there and we'll be happy to respond to them. Oh, and the survey data is also available on that same website. So feel free to visit there and all that information is there.
Special thanks to Mayor Springer here to be with us from far away and taking time to talk to us and introduce the project. Thank you so much, Mayor.
You're very welcome. Thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. I hope everybody enjoyed it and took away a lot of really, really interesting information, but most importantly, that you all get excited about this. This is going to help reshape our community and create a more cohesive walkability for our community, which is something residents have indicated they've wanted from our community for a long time. So thank you to all of you. It was an excellent presentation. And I wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving, happy and safe Thanksgiving, wherever your travels may take you, if it's only to your dining room table. And we will reconvene again when there's more information to share. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.